You are listening to
Marty and the Breaux. Like, I feel like there was a point in time on YouTube where, and maybe it's still true to this day, right? Where everybody's initial deep dive into YouTube or initial start is all conspiracy theory. It's just you jump off the deep end. It's way more interesting. Maybe the algorithm sends us that way. But yeah, man, you go deep into the whole conspiracy route, and that's what I did when I first got on YouTube. This is back in like I guess I was consistently on YouTube by 2013, 2014.
you were one of the original YouTubers, I think. Like
Yeah.
that original that early batch, that wave. You were in the first wave of YouTube users that really got into it.
Like really hard. I guess the first wave was like 2008 or whatever. But I was really early. It's before all the crazy conspiracy, not just conspiracy, but all the the YouTube drama really became a thing, and they started changing everything around. This is back before they had YouTube Kids, and there was the creepy crazy videos all over YouTube. That was this is back then, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So basically, I first got into YouTube because of all the crazy conspiracy theories, right? 9/11, what I'm saying, was a hoax.
And about how old are you at the time? You're like a teenager at the time?
No, 2084. It's just like I'm like 23. I'm like 23.
Oh,
and whatnot.
okay, like
yeah,
23.
yeah.
Okay.
So the reason why I got into it was, remember I told you I worked working at a restaurant. I worked the nights, and I couldn't, I don't have a driver's license, so I had to walk. It was like 2 to 3 hour walk home some nights, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I couldn't.
So
get
you're
a
just
ride.
listening.
I was listening. Yeah, I charged my phone, everything up at work, and and walk home and just listen. Find, because you can only listen to so much goddamn music. You know what I'm saying? So after a while, you start want to hear something interesting, kind of can zone out, think about some stuff deep while you're walking. It's kind of what I started doing. So it first started off with all the crazy conspiracy theories, whether it be whether it had been, like I said, like, governmental JFK, moon landing, whatever, it was all, super, I'm into it all, right?
There's plenty of conspiracy theories.
Oh my God. Yeah. I have no idea. It gets, the rabbit hole goes deeper than like a lot of this mainstream, like flat earthers, people know it. It's like, that's child's play. You hit that, you become a flat earther, day 3 of on YouTube, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what happens, but, so yeah, I'm going through all this stuff, and, I get to a point where I think I know everything, right? So I'm getting deep into it, and I'm starting to argue with people on YouTube. And mind you, at this time, I'm still religious, right? I'm still, I'm very much a Christian in my life at this time, right? And I start getting into an argument with the guy in the comment section of, I think it was a documentary on evolution or something. Like I said, once you get off the deep end of YouTube, you watching full documentaries on there. Like, who needs the History Channel when you got YouTube? Man, I'm telling you, I got to get on it. But anyway, so I'm watching this documentary.
Hey, dope shit page. We always got content. MartyandtheBro.com. Go to the dope shit page.
Hell yeah.
And you'll get some of that content. Anyway, keep going. Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, so I'm looking at
You're battling it out in the comment section about
evolution. So there's this. So I watched a video earlier. Yeah. So I watched a video earlier about this guy. I wish I knew this guy's names, but long story short, they're talking about how carbon dating can be flawed. Because of this, that, and the third. I don't know. It's gobbledygook, to be honest with you, is what it makes. Now that I know what I know now, right? You know what I'm saying? But back then, so I'm just regurgitating these exact same arguments to this dude. I'm like, man, climate change, this, that, and the other. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of just going in. This dude's in the comment section like, yo, bruh, please, please look this person up. Please look this up. And I'm like, man, look, it was so bad. Like, I'm arguing with this dude in the comment section of this video, talking about how, saying, oh, science has not proven evolution to be real. And, this, that, and the other. Guys like, what are you talking about? There are multiple different disciplines that, corroborate evolution, separately, you know what I mean? Like, verifiably. Yeah. So you can't, are we seriously having this conversation right now? And I'm like, literally, while he's telling me these things, I'm, over here on Google, just typing in some shit, copy and pasting entire articles for this dude into the comment section that I didn't even read. I ain't read these articles.
Classic YouTube commenter.
Yeah, just confirmation bias all the way through. And he's just, I guess he's actually reading my replies, and he's like, are we serious right now? And they like, I guess because I wasn't being disrespectful. He wasn't, we were just having a genuine back and forth. Back in the good old days of YouTube. This is back when you could have a real, argument and it not devolve into racism, right? But anyway. like, you know, like he's just like, I just really pray that you look up this, that, and the other. He sent me like a video. He sent me a video that.
Wait, he said, I really pray that you look up this video?
Yeah, like, yeah, but I'm gonna pray, like, he's like, yeah, he's saying hope. Yeah, he's like, just please, just like he could I could tell he was over the bullshit. He was just like, God, man, you know,
yeah,
like I think if I'm not mistaken, he said something like, you know, I remember, you know, he was like, you know, I see you look this stuff up, or I see you copy and pasted this, that, and the other. It's just like, if you would just say, instead of taking that time
in real time.
Yeah. Said take your time doing this bullshit. If you could just watch this video instead, you know what I mean? Watch the, you know, learn, you know, look up these people, look up this, look up that. And I'm, you know, I don't know. Since I'm having this conversation with this dude, I want to look it up. So I'm like, because I'm thinking, I know I'm right, he's wrong, right? So I'm willing to look at his video because I know he's.
You'll look at that video and you'll show him. Then you'll show him.
Then I show him where he's. Yeah, exactly. I'm, you know, dumbass. You know, said so. So I watched this video, and dude goes into it was just this moment where I'm watching this dude talk about how it wasn't, and I don't even think it was just one video. It was like I watched this video and it kind of was spiraling down, like, because it wasn't that one video he sent me didn't have me convinced that I was, you know, he was right and I was wrong. It was just like there was a point where it would really click, and specifically the video, what it was learning about the scientific method specifically, right? You know, saying the idea of, you know, saying the way they verify things. And I think it was specifically the understanding how it works, how, you know, I think it was the story of what's that? Halley's Comet, the guy who discovered Halley's Comet, Halley, whatever. Saying, long story short, the dude, you know, predicted Halley's Comet to happen, right? He predicted it like 60 years before, died before he saw it pass. And he was right. It passed by just like he expected it to, you know what I'm saying? And that was, you know, the predictive power of, you know, science, you know what I mean? And, you know, learning about the scientific method, it all fucking clicked to me because, you know, I started learning more. And it was just like a moment of like, oh my God, I'm a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? And like, I had this moment of like, no, oh my God, you know, like all these arguments I had, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, they're still up to this day, man. I never, you know, because I don't believe in, you know, deleting, even if that's not what I believe now, you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like, well, I said it, it's a snapshot of history, you know what I'm saying? If somebody wants to, you know, have an issue with it, you know, I'll, you know, that was me. Yeah, that was me, my dumb ass. I said that. I did that, right? You know what I'm saying?
It's kind of like a school picture of yourself back in the 5th grade or something, and you got braces and a bunch of shit or whatever. It's kind of like, that's who you were back then.
Exactly. Yeah, man. So, you know, so I left it up there. It's still up there, man. If, you know, man, it was terrible, man. And yeah.
So you were like, what have I done though? You're thinking about, you probably just had like recently posted something about creation or something, and then you're like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
What am I gonna do? I gotta go take that down.
Yeah, no, exactly what happened. Exactly what happened, man. I was like, man, like it was. And really, it was a real eye-opening moment for me, you know, like.
Yeah, you know, that's funny. That's funny. What were you, I'm curious, like when you were like 5 years old, what was church to you? Like, what was your 5, 6-year-old, 7-year-old experience with Christianity and church? And I'm just curious.
Yeah. So, I guess that goes into our episode today, right? You know, let's introduce that.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Episode 7. I want to welcome everybody to episode 7. We are calling this episode Black Jesus, just because we're going to talk about religion with some special attention to the positives and negatives it can bring, especially to kind of Marty's community. And so we're gonna talk about it and lots of different aspects. And
hell yeah, and I'm excited, man.
So now tell me, what was it like when you were 5 or 6? I'm gonna kind of tell you about me, but I want to just imagine little Marcellus going to church with his sisters or something.
Yeah, man. Well, so it was we didn't really go to church too much, man. I guess so I had a really interesting, rocky, you know, relationship with religion. So first of all, my family isn't, my mom and dad weren't too religious growing up, right? So my early childhood, I remember going to church every now and then sporadically. And you know, I wouldn't call them, I'm sure that they believed in God, including my mom, but it wasn't, you know, we weren't, you know, saying super, super religious, and, you know, it just wasn't a thing. Right. So, but
you didn't have symbols all over the house, crucifixes and everything.
Exactly. It wasn't none of that. Yeah. So there was some, a little symbology, but nothing too serious. We didn't go to church on Sundays too regularly. And that only started happening once we actually started, once the split with the parents happened, and saying they started, dating other people. Then specifically my dad started, he was meeting a lot of more religious women, and religion got heavily introduced in my life, like more so like, middle school.
So at some point, so you, but not as a little kid maybe, but at some point you were you were in the club, you were considered yourself a Christian, and you were on your way.
I think, I think in the Black community, like it's in America, not just the Black community, Christianity, it's like what, like 80% or something like that. People that are religious identify as Christian. Some insane, that may just be the Black community.
Pretty high number.
Most people believe in a God and believe in, the God of the Bible, right? In America. So, the odds of
I know that I did. You want to hear my, my little, some of my memories?
Let's do it.
Well, I was doing some introspection about my childhood related to religion. And I was trying to go back in my head and remember, what was it like what was Sunday morning like going to the church, and just remembering myself in the pews, and what did the building look like? I was trying to go way back, and I could remember some things that I hadn't really thought about in a long time. One was that I remember after the service, we would go to like that little annex hall, and they always had donuts there. So that was we were always excited after
go wrong with no donuts
service.
There.
But you're getting the donuts. But also, I think when I was a little bit older, maybe like getting to be 5 or 6 or what, somewhere around there, then we would go to Sunday school. The kids would go to Sunday school, and the parents, I guess, were in the big church, and the kids were going to Sunday school. And the thing that I was thinking about was just how real and how there was no context to the teachings that they were doing around God and around Jesus and the stories of the Bible, like Jesus and the story of turning water into wine or walking on water. I remember that was a big one. I remember very specifically. And I'm kind of thinking, well, you don't mean like really walking on water? I mean, I guess I'm 5 or 6. So I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing. I think this guy's really amazing. Yeah. And everybody that I'm in all the instructors, the Sunday school teachers are all just they're all telling me this information just as if it's real. And there's no greater conversation about any of it. So as a little 5 and 6-year-old kid, all these stories are real as fuck. I remember being at home, and my mom, I don't know if you at our church used to have where your parents could go into the little bookstore and they could check out kids' books, religious kids' books.
Yeah, that's some.
So kind of like a library, free library.
To me, yeah, I hear you. It sounds like some.
So my mom would, and we'd go to church, and she'd come home, and she'd have 3 or 4 kind of religious books. I just remember one of them I was looking at when I was maybe 4. 4, between 4 and 5. I don't know. And the pages were these big colored pages of scenes of Jesus with a robe and the shepherds, and there was an animal in a creek. But one of those images I specifically remember, it showed Jesus as a boy, like about a 10-year-old boy standing with some shepherds or something. And the book was the story of Jesus's life and how he started with Mary. But when I saw that picture of Jesus depicted as a boy, and I'm a boy, it just kind of made me think about, I'd never thought about Jesus as a boy. He's either a baby or he's on the cross. There's no in between.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
So to see this image of him in that in between stage, and then thinking like, well, then that means he was a kid, and he was 5 and 6, kind of like me. And then there was always this story about the second coming of Jesus, and Jesus died, but then he's coming back, and somewhere. And I always thought of myself as a good kid. It was kind of the dynamic in our family. I was the good kid. My brother was the one always in trouble.
Yeah.
That was unfortunate family dynamics in my household. I mean, I guess not as unfortunate it was for my brother, because he was the bad kid and I was the good kid.
Yeah.
But, I don't feel good about either of these scenarios.
Yeah,
but sure. In my head, as a 4 and 5 year old kid, and trying to always be the good kid and the Jesus I remember sitting there and I asked my mom, like we were looking at that book, and I said, "You mean Jesus was like a little boy and like me?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure he was." And somewhere in my head, I was like, "So, and Jesus is coming again, and he's going to be a little boy again?" She's like, "Yeah, that's what they say." So I had this thought in my head. It's like, maybe I'm Jesus. It was like, I was like serious about it. You know, I'm a little kid, but that's how powerful these stories are. Yeah. They get in your head. And I had mentioned this to somebody else, another friend of mine. I wrote about it in my blog, actually. And some of the comments and some of the reactions I got to it was other little boys that said they kind of had the similar experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So, boy, it's so powerful. And sorry, I got Maya in here again. But
what up, Maya?
Hey there, Maya. Don't make a bunch of noise while we got the show going.
All right. Yeah, man. So, that is pretty powerful, man. I can see how that could happen though, with all the, you know, especially taking these kinds of stories literal. Like for me and in my life, man, it seems more like that's actually really what's been the issue in what it seems like maybe even a Black community, right? You know what I'm saying? As far as a lot of
taking it all too literally, you mean?
Taking it too literally, right? You know what I'm saying? And again, I guess, you know, I want to get it going with like a disclaimer here, you know, like I like to go and say, like, this segment, we're not trying to necessarily just bash God, but actually, you know, open the conversation up to a little more, what's the word? Dynamic.
Just have a thorough conversation around it from all, you know, all the way around the sphere of the topic.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for, you know, there's a lot of stuff that is left on the side of the road. You know, there's either a lot of times it's either is there God's real or God's not real. There's just, you know, there's just, you know, hard line with, you know, whether it be religion and atheist. And for me, like my current actual growth in religion as far as it goes, like I'll tell you another story. So there was this guy, well, around the time after I had come to Jesus, you know, metaphorically, you know, right? I come to Jesus moment where I left, where I stopped
Jesus
believing.
Moment where you left Jesus. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So after,
I love it.
Right, after that happened, man, I started thinking, you know, a lot deeper about stuff. And still, don't get me wrong, anybody who's, you know, there's that moment where, you know, because a lot of these things are automatic thoughts that you have as far as, you know, we're taught these things since we're kids. So, you know, like, you know, am I sinning is something that's kind of, you know, it took a long time for thoughts like that to subside in my mind, or, you know what I'm saying? Like they, you know, the constant, you know, pressure and thought of somebody watching me constantly, weird shit like that, you know, religion breeds, you know? So, but during this time I met this guy named Pure, shout out to the homie. Right. But this dude, man, he really helped with a lot of my growth as far as it comes with religion. Cause, you know, like I said, like that moment with YouTube helped me to stop, you know, buying the creation myth.
It opened your mind. Yeah,
exactly.
It got you to start questioning everything at that point.
Exactly. This dude Pure.
Then you're like, I got to figure this out.
This dude Pure made me completely under, you know, stop thinking.
He was like a neighbor or something like that.
Yeah. He was just the homie that lived. Yeah, he lived somewhere down the street. I just see him on, you know, saying we just. To be honest with you, we both hustled, you know what I'm saying, on the same block together. So that's how I knew him, you know what I mean, back then. But yeah. So we'd sit out on the stoop, you know what I'm saying. I was staying off Corporate in Bel Air, you know, around the time I got shot, actually, right? But so this dude here, he was basically like a mentor when it came to getting out of the idea of Christianity and religion for me, right? And specifically religion and Christianity, right? You know what I'm saying? Not so much as believing in God. And what he did for me was, you know, just throwing out little ideas like, you know, like stuff you probably hear normally, like why would you believe a religion? Why would you believe a book that was given to your ancestors, you know, in chains on a boat, right? You know, just little interesting, you know, tidbits like that really sat with me and made me think like, yeah, that don't make no goddamn sense. You know what I mean? Like, why would I believe this book? Why would I?
No, right. Yeah. No, and if I could chime in on that, the thing that I think about in that same vein is if you go back 400 years and you think about how the population of African citizens, I mean, they were in the tribes more at that time as a more primitive time. If we're talking about 400 years ago, and all of those tribes had their own relationship with the spirituality and the spirit world and the natural world, and they had rituals. That had nothing to do with Christianity. And then they are rounded up, thrown on a slave ship and brought to another country where the language is different, everything is different. And part of that time, missionaries are introducing them to Christianity.
Exactly.
And it just doesn't make for somebody who's a descendant of slaves whose ancestors came through that route to be a Christian and to believe in the Jesus Christ that is introduced to us by white Christianity, if we could say, like exactly. It just doesn't make a whole lot of
Western
sense.
Civilization. Yeah, man. Like I think it makes no sense at all, man. And that's, and that's the crux of my issue, like, I guess. Yeah. It's not even the idea of, because, like I told you, I don't have an issue with the idea of God being, real and an entity in and of itself. Saying I think it's
and we should define God. If we're going to talk about God, we should define it in some way. So when you say God, most of the time you're thinking of sort of the Christian God or the religious-based God, as opposed to the flying spaghetti monster or some other
exactly
concept of God.
Yeah. I like to, man. Like, well, I think you're right. Saying I prefer to not define God because I think God should be whatever it is to people, but it's
it gets hard to talk about it when you have two different definitions of it, or when you're not talking about this.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly, but that's why I prefer like thinking of. Cause I think the more colloquial idea of God is the best God to speak on, which is like the God of the Bible, right? In America,
sort of like the everyday, the common usage of God.
Exactly, the guy who will throw you in a pit of fire. That's the God I think we should. Saying address, as far as, when we're talking about him for obvious reasons here in America.
Okay.
Right? So that,
yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. So speaking on that God, I think.
Let me tell you real quick how I left. You kind of told a little bit about how you left religion. I was about 16 years old, and I was. Sorry, Maya really wants to play with this ball down here. I'm sorry about that, everybody. But she's cute, but she's a willful child, you might say. And do you want to pause a second or keep going?
Yeah, we could pause real quick. All right.
All right. Let's pause. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how I left religion myself. Yeah. I was I was, grew up Christian and had that background that I told you about. But then when I was more like 13, 14, 15, I started to just question more. And then I remember being 16 years old and thinking more about how when you step back from Christianity and you start to look at the world and all the different religions of the world, and how they have this way of canceling each other out. Because at that point in time, I'm trying to think, is this true or not? Am I believing in something that is true? Like a concept of God from the Christian, from Christian, origins, is that God real? And I'm kind of going through all those debates in my mind. And when I think about somebody being born in another country, if they were born in a Muslim country, they wouldn't be Christian. They would grow up Muslim. And but they think that Christians have it wrong. And I don't know, they were just in my head. It's like, okay, this is not adding up. And if this part's not true, then how much of the other stuff's not true? Exactly. And it ended up being quite a lot of it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I raised my hand as somebody who was a former Christian, and I am a former Christian, I guess you might have to say, but I never really had a choice. That's part of what bothers me about it, is that I never had a choice about it. And I found, just to talk about for a second, the legacy of religion for me, like, even though I left religion at 16, that whole thought about maybe I'm Jesus and all the baggage that went with that is something that I carried forward. And when I think about, I didn't drink alcohol, for example, till I was 40 years old. Damn. All through my 30s, through my 40s. I know you don't drink alcohol now, and I barely drink it.
Yeah.
But still, the fact that I had sort of this mental prohibition against drinking alcohol, I'm sure it had roots in decisions that were made when I was 4.5 years old, thinking maybe I'm Jesus.
100%.
And that's not fair.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's going into some of my issues with religion, right? Well, with the with the idea of especially Christianity specifically, right? Like I think it's there are, let's just, I guess couching it in the beginning there, there are good aspects I believe that religion carries, right? Saying the sense of community, there are those kind of, there are positives to being in a community in general, right? Like which religion can
100%,
which religion can
facilitate,
accommodate. Exactly. Right. But, the big problem I have with religion is I think it makes people a little more docile than they should be, right? And the reason for that, in my opinion, is the
what did the white missionaries? What was the first thing that they emphasized in terms of Christianity to the slaves? Forgiveness. That was a big part of Christianity. Is that forgiveness? Forgiveness.
I think it's even deeper than that, though, right? Because I think it's it's the not even the need to forgive. There's no, why worry about it when this world, this life doesn't even matter. There's a better one for you later on, right? You know what I'm saying? What is it, all this, you got to make sure you treat people right. You can't get mad, turn the other cheek when people are wronging you, because, later on when, that time when nobody else knows about, when you die, we have no idea, for sure there's paradise then. Don't worry about paradise here. Worry about paradise then, and that's that kind of like that idea to me is just something that really is just like, hold on.
Troublesome.
Yeah.
That's troublesome.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I don't know a lot now. You know what I mean? But I know when I'm being bamboozled now. I can, I can tell you, I can tell when somebody's trying to pull one over on me, and it seems like y'all trying to pull one over on me. And there's a lot of history. There's a lot of, that kind of stuff going on in religion. So for example, if let's start from the beginning with, like, I like to go in deep. Let's give an example of just in the beginning, right, with Adam and Eve. You know what I mean? In my opinion, that whole situation and story is fucked. You know what I'm saying? It's a completely insane situation to be in, because, like, God created man, this garden, and Satan, or let's say Satan was there before. There's a little, Satan was there in general. Either way, God is God, the Alpha, the Omega, the Almighty God, right? He allowed his children to be in a garden with the most evil of evil, Satan. He's Satan. You know what I'm saying? The serpent was, how you get worse than Satan.
That's how the story goes.
I'm not making this up. You can read it for your damn self, right? You know what I'm saying? So, like, when I look at it, I'm like, let's pretend God was a father. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like, would you, if you saw a dad, with who the dad knows. It's not like God don't know. God knows who Satan is. He's God. Remember that, right? You know what I'm saying? Your dad knows that there is a child molester in the park, and his kids are just running around the park, and he's like, hey, see that guy who's a child molester? Don't talk to him. But yeah, go on and do whatever you want to do after that, though. Yeah, you'd be like, well, look, all right. I don't know if we can blame the children. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's the children's fault that what's going on here, bro. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you should have done something about the guy we know, you know what I'm saying, is a child molester, So there's little things like that made me start thinking, and like I said, it's not to bash religion. The issue I have is maybe God of the Bible is real. Maybe maybe Jesus did come back and all that. What my issue is he damn sure didn't write the book. So, like, what do we know some men, some people wrote this book, and, saying, and, it's possible that it's tainted. Even if there's some truth in the book, there's also some parts of man in the book. So why would we take everything that it says as gospel when we know that's, like, you can look at the book and see that there are some contradictions in it. So then that obviously means that even if there is some truth, there's some bullshit too. So what are we doing here, right? So that's that's what happened with me, where it was just like, all right, like the minute you see one thing that doesn't quite make sense, you can't unsee it, right? You're like, well,
it's kind of like I was watching Ozark is one of the popular shows right now on one of the streaming channels.
Okay.
and I was enjoying, I was into it. I got to about episode 6 or something. And there was something about this, one of the scenes that troubled me, some character motivation that wasn't quite right. And once I saw that one scene and it didn't match up with, I was like, then I couldn't watch it anymore. It's like, if this doesn't make sense, how can I believe any of the other stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, no, continuity.
Yeah, the continuity. You get that break in continuity with Christianity and with a belief in God or religion. You get that break in continuity, and it's hard to get that back. For me, it is, at least.
I agree, and like I like to go into like go kind of off the deep end with it, with going into, I guess, if God is real, if God of the Bible is real, I'm about to go off the deep end with you. If God of the Bible is real, I think he's the bad guy. I think he's the bad guy of the story. And let's get into it, right? You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
When I look at, like the story of, Adam and Eve with the tree of knowledge, I'm a firm believer in knowledge is power. What that means to me is God was trying to keep power away from Adam and Eve because he was telling them not to gain it, right? You know what I'm saying? Like keep them docile.
And just to be, I don't really know that story. So just recap real quickly. This is one of the portions of the Bible. And
the beginning of the Bible. This is God created. Okay. Yeah. We're talking about Genesis right now.
Early parts.
Yeah. I thought everybody read Genesis.
Yeah, my apologies. I just, it really didn't. Evidently, that Bible study I went to, or that
I can't. Maybe as an adult, the Bible is one of the best reading. Like it is. If you read the Bible as like something Tolkien wrote or something, like saying something like Harry Potter, fucking good ass book. You know what I mean? When you take it in that turn, it's like, man, God was wilding, man. Like this dude, But
he was wilding.
He was wilding, bro. God was tripping, man. He was. You see what he murdered? He just take offing people left and right. But anyway, so like so in the story, in the beginning, he created man, right? Saying from the ground, from the soil, and then he bore a woman from his rib, right? Say he took woman out of Adam's rib, right? So I'm super Cliff Notes version here. There'll be some religious people going in and giving their interpretations and all this, but I'm giving you the facts on the ground of what was said and what was done. So when I look at it, I'm like, God basically said, hey, you can, this is it's Garden of Eden. You can have your lay of the land. You can have whatever you want. Do all, eat anything you need, saying you can't, and one thing you can't do, don't eat the fruit from this tree. This one tree right here, it's called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You don't touch it. You don't touch that tree. Oh yeah, and don't talk to the snake. The snake's a bad guy. Don't talk to the evil snake. Don't touch the evil tree, And like I said, my issues in this immediately is one, okay, God, I created all this. Why have the evil tree in the garden in the first place? Why are we playing this game of like, why are you testing my gangster right now, God? Like, why do that when we don't even know right from wrong yet, right? This is the beginning of the story, right? So there's just so many things wrong with, what he's doing. It's like, I don't know. It's toxic behavior.
What was the meaning of that? What are people supposed to get from that story?
I mean, that's all, in my opinion, super subjective. I have been in his ways on our ways, his thoughts on our thoughts. But that's that's shorthand you hear what I mean? That's a big That's how they
go in a lot of different directions.
That's how they get you exactly. It's just it's not it's God's plan, God's will kind of thing, right? So I don't know what the hell the idea. Like apparently, we were born sinners. We had sin in our heart because that's how he created us, or some weird. Like it's just like I don't completely understand exactly. It's weird as fuck.
That's part of the problem with religion is that when you think about it for 4 seconds, it just doesn't add up, man.
It don't add up at all. I mean, like I said, I like to like humanize God, like because like if you look at God in the Bible specifically, you look at his actions, and just imagine that being a man. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if imagine if God was your dad, right? And you were a kid and you were chilling, and God was like, "Hey, don't you read them books over there? You don't have to learn none of that shit over there. You don't have to talk to that person over there. Don't do none of that." That's the only explanation you get. And because you have no other explanation, this smooth talking Satan, you know what I mean? Satan. Smooth talks you into talking because he's Satan. You know what I'm saying? Like, but anyway, Smooth talks you into defying God, which all kids do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're his children, and then God's like,
there wasn't a hard. He didn't have to do that much.
Well, let's get deep. We know what God did as a punishment. No, in the Bible, it says God cursed what woman to when they bear kids for it to be to hurt. That's why women when they go into labor, it's painful because she tempted Adam to eat the fruit, and Adam was cursed to work the land for all eternity. That's why men have to work and women have to have kids, and why it hurts. That's the explanation because we ate from the fruit. And so, you get what I'm saying? It's just like what? Well, so God, the guy. So you're telling me the guy who loves me. right? He loves me. You know what I'm saying? You're telling me the all-knowing knows the best way, the best decision to do everything. That guy decided it was best
Yeah.
to leave me in a garden. You know,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? You start really breaking it down, thinking about it. It's like, if that was a guy, if that was anybody else, if you imagine that on the news, they were on the news, today, local man leaves his son in the park with a known child molester. You'd be like, why would he do that? Tells the kid, don't talk to the child molester. The kid talks to the child molester, ends up being molested. The guy got mad at the kid, cursed the kid, cut off whatever, the equivalent of a curse, saying for all eternity, cursed the kid and the kid's children for all eternity. And, you'd be like, whoa, for what again? It just doesn't quite make any sense, and that's, that's my issues with the Bible, and we're not getting into
you had thought about the,
that's just one story. That's just, we're still in chapter 1,
Yeah. You were saying also, imagine if God were your boyfriend or like that.
God, imagine if God was like your dad or like a boyfriend. He's like an abusive, overbearing, that's what he'd be like. It's like, imagine that's me, hey girl, I love you to death. You know what I'm saying? I want us to be together. Saying I want you to put me before, anybody. Put me first, or I'll burn you for all eternity in a lake of fire. It's like, whoa. How do we get here? Eternity? Like forever, for all of eternity. It's a long time, God, for some shit. I didn't get to choose my parents. I've only been here for 80, some odd years. I'm on this planet making decisions, and that seems talk about a permanent solution to a short-term problem, God. You know what I mean? That doesn't. If you were God, would you do this? And that's my biggest issue with God of the Bible. Why I'm not saying God isn't real, or I don't think God is real, but that isn't the crux of my issue with God. My issue with God of the Bible is, if he is real, we got problems, God. You know what I'm saying? God, you gonna have to see these hands when I see you, nigga. What you mean? You know what I'm saying? If God of the Bible is real, I get to heaven, bro. Me and God got beef, son. I'm be like, come here, God. Come here. Let me talk to you, son. Let's I got some questions, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? What's going on with, all this turmoil? Why the hell, you make Trump president? You know what I'm saying? Kids in Africa dying of malaria and shit. You know what I'm saying? What we doing out here, God? What's the big plan? You say you got a plan? Tell me the plan. Tell me the plan, God, before I smack the shit out you. You know what I mean? That'd be my energy, with God of the Bible, right? So the way I look at it is, I think when you take all the bullshit to the side, when you move because all the Bible is, right, in my opinion, is people who lived, way back in the gap. Not saying they didn't know, not saying we know everything more than they do now, but saying there's some things we know that are right now that they didn't know. People who didn't know a lot. Right.
Oh my God! They
explanation of the world.
They didn't know what was over the other side of the hill. I mean,
exactly.
A lot of people they couldn't read. Most people couldn't read back at that time.
Yeah, it was bad, right? And I think
flat Earth. I mean, they had no concept of the planets. And no, they were definitely.
And if there were a group of people that knew it, it wasn't widespread. We weren't uniformly, intelligent. There may have been groups, because there may have been groups here and there that knew some shit. Because the Egyptians knew something, a little shit like that, right? But saying it's not whatever. I think
it wasn't common knowledge.
Exactly, whatever the fuck they were on,
today,
exactly,
not common knowledge back then.
Exactly. Well, I think the Bible. If you look at the Bible and strip all the bullshit and look at, I think instead of looking at the Bible, the best way to tell, let's just say there is a God. I like to let's steel man that and say God is real, right? Saying God is real, but I think the best way to tell what he would actually want, because another issue I have with God is the idea of worship. If God was real, isn't it weirdly arrogant? Would you want to worship somebody who needs to be worshiped? You know what I mean? Like somebody's like, worship me, love me, it's all me. You'd be like, bro, it's more like lame, weird shit. Like, calm down, bro, just chill. God. We know you God.
Dude.
Yeah. You'd be like, nah, son, saying you worship me, no one else before me, or you all die and your kids are cursed. And, it's just like real kind of bitch shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what else to say it. It's like, my God, if God is real, the God I believe in ain't no bitch. You know what I'm saying? He ain't worried about no weird ass, worship and, they hurt my feelings. I think, and if you look at the world and how it operates now, I don't think he does that. I don't think he worries about none of that kind of shit. I think it looks to me like God was like, okay, if there was a God, he made this shit. It's like making a watch. He made the watch, turn it on, clicked it, and it set that shit over and let it play out. And that's what's happening right now, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and if we're made in his image and call us by our name, shout out Eric Badu, right? But he made us creators, right? We are born to create, and I believe that we're supposed to create heaven or hell here on earth. I think most of that shit is metaphor in the Bible, and you know what I'm saying? I think it's metaphor for, people back in the day being super poetic and shit, you know what I'm saying? And trying to explain how life should be, how you should live your life. And a lot of the stuff that's relevant in the Bible is still relevant because we're all still fucking human beings still doing the human experiment. Same shit, different day kind of thing, right? So a lot of the lessons that were learned are still like treat people the way you want to be treated. Some of that stuff's still relevant to this day because we're still all humans. Like, those things, that were learned are in the Bible. I think those are the shit you should take from it. Like, I believe deeply in living Christ-like, even though I don't worship Christ. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, and I remember that you and I were talking one time about some thoughts you were giving to what it would have been like to put the golden rule down on paper like that and distribute it. And you were thinking about maybe at that point in time, that was something that kind of needed to be said. Now we think about, okay, but why would you even need to say that? Like, treat others like you want to be treated.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I actually had that.
Maybe at that point in time.
Well, it was an epiphany I had. Like, so I think that this gets into a deeper point. We're getting off in the weeds. Remind us to come back, right? Remind us to shoot back in a second. Religion, But so this goes into a little bit of philosophy. I told you I was tripping, balls on psilocybin. We should legalize, tax regulate all drugs, by the way. But tripping balls on some shrooms, and I had come to the epiphany of. I had kept having epiphanies as I was tripping, but as I was having these epiphanies, there's something else in the back of my mind that was like, duh, of course we know that. Saying like in myself, I was doing that to myself, but in that moment of epiphany, I was like, well, yeah, it is a duh, but nah, but it's not duh though, because there was a point in time where this wasn't obvious, there were literal, philosophers pondering deep about these ideas and themes to figure out why should you treat people the way you want to be treated, right? That wasn't common knowledge at one point. That was something we all had, we had to, as a society, kind of come to and agree to, right?
Yeah, because evidently it ended up as something that some people thought needed to be taught. Needed to be taught to people.
Well, it had to,
and attributed to a sky god. It was so important.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and I think exactly. I think that's I think it's that we're getting more into the realm of philosophy, and I think right now a lot of the issues we're having, especially with like, I think a lot of those that specific is going into like why I think religion is so why everything's. Nobody takes anything, those things like treat people the way you want to be treated. It's almost like since you teach it to kids, it doesn't hold as much weight as it really should be. It's a lot deeper than, it's something that should be taken a lot more serious, but because it's just such a throwaway idea of like, duh, yeah, of course,
Imagine how much it's mixed in to the stuff about Jesus walking on water and Jesus healing the sick and all those other things and all the other stories of the Bible.
And that's my issue with it. Exactly.
That's that whole thing about some parts of it are really true and valuable, and then some parts of it are nonsense. And
it's all metaphor, right? And in my opinion, like, even if let's say God is real, that's why I love giving people the argument. Yeah, God of the Bible is real. God of the Bible is real. Okay, fine. I think even if he is real, let's say everything in the Bible happened the way they say it happened in the Bible. Let's say all that should happen. Even still, right now, if you look around at the real world around you, God don't intervene. You know what I'm saying? Right now, at least. And whereas I could say that, like, I think it's arrogant for people to say, like, they talk about, blessings and stuff. Excuse me. I don't think God blesses people in the sense that you think, because why would it's just arrogant to say, oh, I'm blessed, God has favor looking down on me. And it's like, okay, you're blessed and highly favored while he's letting while kids are being born of cancer, suffering every day. You know what I'm saying? My God, the God, if there is a God, the God I believe exists would never saying he would never let anything like that happen. That doesn't make logical sense.
Yeah. There's something about the model of the world that is presented when you think about Christianity and God and other religions too. They sort of give you this idea of how the world works in a big macro picture. And when you look at the world through your own eyes, it doesn't start to match up very well with that model, because you start to have those questions like what you're talking about. But if you say, well, maybe that's not the right model we should be talking about, maybe there's another model that fits better to what we see. And that's where, if there is any invisible force, invisible, like in the non-material, everyday world of tables and chairs,
metaphysical.
Yeah. If there's other forces at work, which, by the way, we know that there are, because we can see them with instruments that are more sensitive to those spectrums.
Yeah.
We can see them. We can see an awful lot with instruments that are beyond our everyday ability to sense things, particles, microscopic particles, wavelengths, all that stuff. So obviously there's no question about there being an entire spectrum of life, reality, that's just not a part of our everyday existence.
Agreed.
Okay, so we've got that right there. And the nature's model, the natural model to explain the world, is a much better fit to what we see. Because then when we talk about how populations are decimated by disaster, or there's disease that comes across a population, or there's an invasive species, you see all these natural forces at work that are causing death and destruction.
Yeah.
So when we think about human death and destruction, if you put it in the context of the greater arc of nature, then the model that nature is God seems to be a much better fit than any type of Christian God, in terms of how it matches up to our everyday experiences.
Agreed. And yeah, like I said, like I always think that the argument of whether God is real is kind of a moot argument to me. It doesn't really matter, because like I said, even if he is real, let's just say all that shit in the Bible happened. Like you're saying, when you look at it now, because the Bible, it didn't say, it's not like, Bible written in, it's written in 2015, right? 2016. This isn't recent as shit. So all that stuff.
No, not at all.
We agree. Yeah. Let's say talking donkeys happened. Let's say he made donkeys. Let's say he split the Red Sea. Let's say he did all that. We all Christians, it seems like, would agree that he doesn't do outlandish miracles like that in people's faces anymore, right? That's not a thing God does, right? And my point is, if we know that's true for a fact, like I said, like, let's look at the nature of God. If God is good and just, then it would seem to be, man, then he has stepped back completely, right? And if that is the case,
it would appear that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it would appear that he stepped back completely. And if that is the case, then the question is changed now to what is more important, and I think what was his intentions in that. And I think when you look at it from that point of view, and you start to notice like what the world requires of us, and if we're made in his image, creators, we were obviously put here to create a better world, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, he kind of put us here kind of like on some like, okay, what I'm saying? I gave you all the tools to create heaven on earth or hell on earth. What you gonna do? What you want to do? And right now, what I'm saying? I think if there is a God, his likeness, the things he taught has been co-opted by those who have chosen to create heaven on earth for themselves and create hell on earth for everybody else, right? And we have, that's why my issue with Christianity specifically is it seems like it keeps us docile in the point of what's the need to to fight back and change. Jesus is coming back. The rapture's coming. I'm gonna be taken up to heaven and everything's gonna be fine. We can't save this anyway. Saying this is the 7 trials, or the 7 years of tribulation will come. That's some revelation shit. Like, it gets deep, right? Saying, and I think it just takes agency away from people. Versus, like I said, like, to me, whether God is real or not is irrelevant to the other fact of, no, man, we're supposed to fight. Like, I think he wants us. I think it seems to me, right? It just seems by the way looking at animals, looking at the animal kingdom, what I'm saying? Yeah. Like there's that, like, there's even said faith without works is dead. That's a big saying in my community, which means you don't get nothing without working. God won't bless the people who are just sitting on their ass, right? So even in their own sayings, it's like, yeah, you got to do something. You can't just wait and pray on God, but to a certain extent. But it's for the bigger things, for the saving the world part, that's what we do. And that's my issue with Christianity. It's like in some cases it brings us together, but in a lot of cases it also separates us. And like I said, in my personal life and for Black people, like it's been used, in my opinion, to demonize us and each other. Like I told you, when I got shot.
Yeah,
right?
I wanted to ask you about the kind of bringing religion back into the Black community, and getting a little bit more like what's going to what kind of heat will you catch for having this conversation with me about it and saying some of the things that you're saying? Are you concerned at all about
Yeah, I mean, I've
upsetting people, or
yeah.
I
So
don't know.
because
How
religion's
serious are people about this?
Yeah, because religion's so big in my community, man. Like, definitely, I'm a weirdo for having any of these conversations I'm having with you, right? That just immediately makes me a weirdo, and like, it's a lot of groupthink thing. Like, I've come across a lot of, like, for example, there's been women in my life that that have completely, swerved me and don't want to talk to me. And, and they learn that I'm, when I'm, unapologetically non-religious and very adamant about it, saying it's something that they're like, oh, I don't need nobody that doesn't believe in God. And it just breeds, there's a lot of judgmental bullshit that comes with that from my community. Like, for example, I was saying, like, the reason just being honest about, when I look back at when I was shot, the whole thing with that happening is, I don't know if I've explained, I'll go give a little backstory into it, but I was still in high school, right? Say I had just, I was still in high school. While I was in high school, my mom had passed away, right? I moved back in with my dad.
We if anybody missed it, we talked a little bit about this in episode 5.
Yeah.
About that story.
And episode 3 a little bit too, right? So, but just
also,
a Cliff Notes version, right? So my mom passes away. I move in with my dad, right? Trying to get my life together because I was running the streets. The woman he was dating at the time was ridiculously religious. When I say ridiculously religious, I mean, we were having church in the living room. You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay.
That's how, yeah,
it was pretty religious.
It was ridiculous, right? But I'm in there hook lines. You see, like I told you how I am with,
you were in it. You were, gang, you went in like at that point in time.
That gang life. Yeah. Gang life has taught me, you all in, balls in, that's how, saying it's all or nothing, right? Saying that's one of those, positives of life. So I'm like, I'm reading the Bible every day. I'm in it. You know what I'm saying? You can't, I'm sitting in the living room waiting for people to come to church, right? You know what I'm saying? That's how it was. Like, I was like, my mom just died. I'm trying to figure it out, right? So so we're having it's just super religious and stuff, and I'm making straight A's in school. I'm, like I said, I got back into high school. I'm making straight A's. I'm doing everything I need to do. Saying I'm living I'm the perfect blackie, what I'm saying, for lack of a better term,
you're
perfect,
one of the good ones.
One of the good ones, exactly, right? So
working on it at least.
I joined the basketball team because whatever, they everybody,
they coerced you into.
They've genuinely coerced, whatever. We'll talk about that another day, right? Saying I got coerced into the basketball team, and as I'm on the basketball team, I start smoking weed again because I'm out, I'm hanging with niggas in the hood again. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm hanging with my niggas. And it happens like at this time I had stopped smoking weed. I had tried to get my life completely around, but I started smoking weed. I still was making A's. I wasn't running the streets. I just smoked weed after the basketball games and before, and a lot, but at that point, right? So so long story short, I guess saying they find weed on me, and because it's super religious, super holy.
This is your
stepmother and my dad. Yeah, find weed on me.
Your mother, your dad.
And this is, mind you,
weed on you at home.
Mind you, at this point, I'm a straight A student. Saying mom had just passed away, but a year, a little more, a little less than a year. Saying at this point, I just got out from. They know right before I moved in with them, I was out here banging, thugging. Saying it was like the streets. I was not. Everybody knew I was out here in the streets, right? Saying now I'm religious. I'm trying to turn my life completely around. I start smoking weed again. Instead of like any kind of conversation or anything, I get thrown out into the street. They literally immediately kicked me out. Senior year of high school. I didn't even finish high school. And I'll put this on my dad. Shout out to the homie, like he was living in her house, right? Like I told you, there was that codependent relationship thing because, like I said, he's a felon,
sure.
Like there's those issues. It's hard to get, property, get something in your name when, whatever. Yes, it gets deep, right? So he's living with this lady. It's her house basically, right? So she kicks me out,
And you can point, you point directly to her religious fervor.
1,000%. That's what it was. And
instead of her religious fervor being there to be supportive of you in whatever you're doing.
Nah, I'm one of them niggas. I'm one of them nothing ass niggas that, you know what I'm saying? You get what I mean? I'm not one of them nothing ass niggas that will never be shit. I'm just, I'm just problem bringing in evil spirits into the house, all this kind of shit. So I end up moving in with Miss Tisha. Shout out Miss Tisha. I love you to death. Hope everything's going well. And long story short, that's why I was on corporate. I met Pure. There's some good points in my life. Even at this point, I had already joined the Navy. Like when they kicked me out, they'd known I swore into the Navy. So right after high school, I would, graduate and go off to the Navy, right? You know what I'm saying? They kicked me while knowing all this is going on because they catch me with weed. I get kicked out the house, you know what I'm saying? I get shot on, you know what I'm saying, in the neighborhood I was living in because it was just, I had no choice but to live over there. It wasn't the greatest neighborhood. I got shot. In the Navy, things gone, you know what I'm saying? And my life really gets flipped upside down for me, right? It was Like I told you, because I'm religious at this time, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking like in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, I'm like, okay, my mom died. There's, you know, my lifestyle changed a little bit. You know, I'm trying to do more positive things. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, you know,
and this is going on and this is happening. So in your head, you are trying to reconcile your newfound religion with the reality around you. And you're starting to see, a disconnect. I'm
exactly.
guessing. And that's,
yeah, man, it was bullshit. It was like, I'm looking at like, you know, like how, you know, these people who are religious, God fearing, all this bullshit, how they treat people, how they're just like, you know what I'm saying, throw people to the wolves, you know what I'm saying? And I know like, for example, I told you that around this time, I had met Kirk for the first time. Shout out to homie Kirk, love you to death, brother. You know, who's, you know, not religious. You know, I don't want to call him an atheist. I'm not sure exact. I know damn well he don't believe in Christian God, right? Just put it like that, you know.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And he's literally one of the kindest people. Like, didn't give up on me, right? You know what I'm saying? Didn't just throw me to the wolves when, you know, when shit hit the fan. Like I'm seeing these completely separate worlds. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? This quote unquote God fearing woman, you know what I'm saying? God, you know, Jesus preaches forgiveness, you know what I'm saying? Ain't none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, she out, you know, there's always cussing and yelling and beating kids and all this, you know, abuse, of physical abuse, emotional abuse, all this kind of shit. And then, you know what I'm saying, at the end of the day, you know, you don't, you know, like it just, for me, what I noticed was it was like, this is like giving you an excuse to not have to deal with your bullshit because, you know, like I said, Jesus is coming back, so you ain't got to save the world. Why save the world? Jesus is coming back. There's no need, you know what I'm saying? Like there's, you know, you're getting caught in the rapture. And also on top of that, it's like, you know what I'm saying, like, if you're saved, you know, there's no need to worry about anybody. It's just all kinds of trash, man. It's just
we should go ahead and before we have to wrap up, I kind of want to hear you talk about your conspiracy theory that the white people are raptured and something. And what was that?
No. So that's my I get in, right. So it's more so a thought experiment, right? And I do a lot of thought experiments, I guess, so y'all can understand. I thought experiment pretty hard here, and just understand it's just to think about things differently. Harris. Yeah, I like to just think about things a little differently. I don't, you know, I'm probably 100,000% wrong, right? But it's just like, what if, right? You know, so think about it, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm really a fan of science, and my thing is, you know, like, a lot of my community, my culture likes to think like, oh, the truth is in God and Jesus and you'll be saved. And that's where, you know, a lot of like the mainstream culture of black people is, you know, saying like every time there's always some preacher Jesus. If anybody goes on Breakfast Club, there's always, I'm blessed, I'm highly flavored. There's always this tinge
bless bless him, bless everybody.
Yeah. There's this always this tinge of, anytime there's anytime there's an award or anything, there's always just this, you know, God's got me, all this Jesus
Glory to
shit.
God.
And my thing, when I started looking at, I was like, all right, so this gets into the deep shit, right? So
let's go. Let's get into it.
Right. So let's say that white people are hiding some shit from black people. Where would they hide it? And everybody, the easy answer is in a book. That's all cute and funny and probably true. But you know, like it's really where to hide it is in the sciences, right? And not because niggas don't have like I told you, I'm fucking fascinated by bro, it's not even funny, right? But I go to sleep listening to like little full lectures on quantum physics, right? That shit's amazing, right? Anyway, but I think that's where you would hide, you know, the truth, whatever the truth is, whatever's out there, whatever, because, you know, in my opinion, there's so many barriers to entry for people of color and black people.
Yeah, it's not that you would hide it necessarily. It's that that's where it would be. You would discover it first. If there was
I mean hide. Let me explain you why I think hide it, why it's hidden, right? Because all the barriers to entry to get there's financial barriers, there's schooling, right? You know what I'm saying? Like for religion, there's none of those barriers to entry for religion. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be in school for. I think if there was truth and there was, you know, power in that, you know what I'm saying, it would be a lot harder to, you know what I'm saying, you know, for black people at least, because think about it, like you got to remember, you know what I'm saying, like now, even though, you know, slavery is done, you know what I'm saying, a lot of these systems were set up at a point where it was common, it was okay for, it was like, fuck them niggas. Long story short, it was the norm. It was a norm to be like, okay, we're going to set these systems up, but make sure black people are screwed while we do that. And everybody's like, yeah, no, agreed. Everybody, you know, that was the way it was set up, right? So when all these things were allowed, like black people were allowed to be preachers, right? Black people weren't really allowed to be scientists, right? You know what I'm saying? Like that was a lot more like, no, you can't come over here and do all that. But you can preach the word, right? So when I take a step back and I look at it, I'm like, Nah, man.
You're like, what's going on here? You're like,
why is that such an open lane for us? You know what I'm saying? But over here, like I said, there's financial barriers, right? You can't, you know what I'm saying? Like there's schooling. There's so many barriers to entry to get into the sciences, you know? Even the language, right? There's language barriers, you know what I'm saying? There's you know, like, for example, like the word theory is completely separate, you know, than our colloquial term for theory, right? You know, that's, you know, all my science nerds out there, right? But anyway, like there's just little things like that that's, you know, super barriers to entry, in my opinion. And when I start looking at it, start thinking about it, I'm like, okay. What if, right? The truth is, because, you know, with string theory, you know, well, I think it's string theory. It posits that there's, or I think it's specifically M theory, posits that in order for it to work, there's 11 separate dimensions, right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm, you know, I've been getting deep into the weeds when it comes to quantum physics and shit with, you know, double slit experiment. I am convinced that if there is some other shit out there, well, it could be a God, that motherfucker lives in another dimension, you know what I'm saying? And is possibly accessible, right? Maybe it's, you know, through, not, you know, because our bodies are bound to the third dimension. Maybe it's, you know, consciousness type shit, right? Who knows, right? Whatever. But, you know, like my theory is like, what I'm worried about is I always look at it like, since I know religion, specifically Christianity, is a red herring, since I know it's not the true answer, I get worried about like, man, what if the story of like the rapture, what if it is true? But I'm gonna twist it on its head. What if it's on some like, you know, there's not a specific, the chosen people who work to find the truth and get to the next dimension, right? You know what I'm saying? And right now, white people are working in secret over here, fucking with the Large Hadron Collider. There's the experiments. They just made time crystals. Google it. Google time crystals, y'all. They just made, seriously, it's a thing. They literally trapped, I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying when I say that. And I watched, you know, it's mind-blowing shit though that's going on right now in the sciences. And I'm like, man, what if white people were to figure out how to leave this dimension and disappear, and you let's say you can't bring your clothes, so you got to go naked, so they take off all their clothes, they jump into a portal, leave this dimension, what would we call it? What would people left behind call that?
The rapture.
It would be the rapture, wouldn't it? You know what I'm saying? So then look at now, you know, niggas is like, oh, they let, you know, we were left behind because we weren't good, we weren't this, we were sinners, we were that. And I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, that's the trick. You know, like it's the long game, man. They're playing, you know what I'm saying? They go, you know, so that way they think that, you know, these are children of God and all this shit. What if it already happened? What if this is just a cyclical thing? I don't know. I like my crazy conspiracy theories. I know I'm going off the deep end, but that's, you know.
I like it because it's like, there's no way that that's true. And then you're like, well, maybe.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's, you know, it's just another way of looking at the rapture, like on some, like, you know, what if it's putting in the work? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not saying, no, because I don't think we're incapable. I don't think black people are incapable of doing the sciences. I get, you know,
clearly not.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's just, you know, there is a unique, you know, need to keep us away from there. It seems like I said, all the barriers to entry, you know, there's so many gatekeepers into that lane. I'm like, there's some there, y'all, and they don't want us to know about it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all niggas talk about Jesus. I'm like, no. Fucking quantum physics, man. Right?
Chemistry,
biology, man. I'm telling
you. Let's go. Yeah, that's where, don't let them do it.
Don't let them trick us anymore. Yeah, that's where I'm at, man. Yeah. So, but so I guess I do want to wrap it up myself in saying that I hope that we can, I would like to just end it on, what do you think? Like, what are your views on,
where are we today?
Yeah, where are you today and your views on religion, how you feel about it, you know, people that are religious, anything. How you feel about it? Yeah,
well, I would, you know, I think the atheist label for me still works in terms of I am not a theist. In other words, I don't think that there is a God of any kind out there in the everyday sense of the word.
Yeah.
But where I have a little slice of a caveat for today's conversation is just that I look at nature and I look at the mechanics of it and the flow and ebbs and flows of nature and ecosystems that all seem to live in harmony for centuries and centuries and centuries. And I look at, I don't know why I always come back to the school of fish, because it's kind of like this. It's kind of like if I pick up the remote control and I point it at the TV and I push the button and the TV turns on, I don't personally know what's behind that action. I know that some people know. I know that there's that this is a well understood radio frequency or infrared or Bluetooth or whatever. I know that there are good, hardworking people that understand this technology very well. I just don't happen to understand it. When I look at a school of fish and I see the way that they move in unison, and the way that the fish at the bottom of the school turns and moves at the same exact moment as the one that's on the other side of the school, and they're all following this pattern. I see them moving as a unit, but they're all individual fish. You could take a net and pull a fish out, right?
Yeah.
But there is some sort of a mesh that is synchronizing to create this phenomenon of fish swimming in formation like this. And other animals move in formation all the time. It's not just fish. That's sort of like the most obvious answer. But you can look at other examples and geese flying in formation, the way that they fly. And there's lots of herd behavior. There's lots of things that can kind of fall into this category of there must be some sort of connective tissue here. So that's something that is there. We can't really deny it. We don't understand it. So like it's in the same, it's like me with the remote control and understanding how that works. When we look at the fish, we see that there's something going on there. We know that there's a phenomenon going there. We just haven't quite figured it out yet.
Exactly.
So that when we make space for nature sort of being the mechanisms of nature overlapping with the mechanisms of the Christian God, that's where I say, like, to me, there is some portion of it that is spot on in terms of flowing and growth, and but the interpretation that the Christian faith, the Christian religion puts on it, and the Muslim religion, and all these religions that I'm not familiar with myself personally, but they all have this way of taking that core of truth that we can see and relate it in nature, that model that we see, and then just taking it into these other crazy places that I can't get on board with. So, and attributing it to a sort of a central figure of God, which I've got no interest or allegiance to in any way. It just doesn't make sense, like we talked about.
No, I'm with you, man.
Yeah, so I consider myself to be an atheist, but I'm not a hardcore materialist today, as maybe I was for most of my life, and that's some of the topics that we'll get into and later on and later on down the road in our show.
It's exciting stuff.
So I'm looking forward to, yeah. But that's where I am. And where would you say you are today? And about the similar place, or?
Yeah, man. I think we're three-dimensional creatures bound by the arrow of time. But no, so getting real deep into it, right? But no, so I think
makes
I really
sense to me,
right? But no, I really think that it is a like I said, I think the question of God is kind of irrelevant, in the sense of what's more important is what is to be done with that information and whatnot, right? But as far as it goes, how does it harm us? How does it benefit us? If there is a God? And that's where you want to jump to, is like, it's not, even if God is there, it's clearly not serving us he's not serving your community in any way at all. Exactly.
Except for keeping your people somewhat complacent.
Exactly. Life is more like the quiz part is a quiz than homework. Like, ain't nobody here to help us. It seems like they're like, saying like, all right, everybody quiz, no cheating, and pencils down when it's over, and no redos, right? That's what it seems like God has. If there's a God, he set it up that way. Ain't no redoing life, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like ain't nobody helping, you know what I'm saying? Ain't no, you get what I mean? Like, that's what I mean by, this seems like to me. And I also really have starting to, I think there's very, very important things about the Bible. Like I told you, I actually truly believe in living Christ-like now. And this is always a very confusing thing to people when I'm like, no, I don't believe in the God of the Bible. I think, in fact, if you taking the Bible literally, it's terrible. You know what I'm saying? Well, God, if God is real, God of the Bible is real, he is the bad guy to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? He is the villain of the story. We need to stop that guy, right? In my opinion, right? But if you look at it metaphorically, right, you know what I'm saying? I think that there is a lot of real substance there. And for example, like, treating people the way you want to be treated, living Christ-like, there's all those things. And even a lot of the stories, I think there's a lot of good metaphors and story. I have, I told you this before, the prodigal son, Luke 11, chapter 15, 11 through 32 tatted on my arm, which is, the whole I was once lost, now I'm found. And it's a story about forgiveness. And like, if you leave the house, and come back, they'll still have, it's okay to come back. It's okay to go fuck up and come back. You'll still have a place here. Like there's a lot of good, really interesting, shit that is in the Bible. The problem is taking it literally, you know what I'm saying? When you can literally see with your own two goddamn eyes that it's like, well, no, even if some of that shit did happen, God don't do shit like that no more. You know what I mean? So that's my, and that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm like,
so you're the non-Christian Christ-like follower, or you're not the follower. You're living as what other people might look at your life and the way that you live and conduct yourself, and they might look at you and say, boy, he's a really good Christian. And you're like, well, not really. I think
the one part I disagree with is the worship part. I don't think if there is a God, I don't think he wants worship. It'd probably be like, man, can they stop this weird shit? It makes me feel uncomfortable. So I think, like, you know what I mean? Cause like, if I was a God, I wouldn't want you to worship me. No, it's cool, man. I got you. You know what I mean? Like, you got, say less. Say we do this. We cool. Hold it down. You know what I'm saying? I got you. Yeah. I want to be cool about it, right? Not like you see me? Did you see that? If my God was that lame, it would just be weird. You know what I'm saying? It'd be like, he helped me out and he's like waiting for me to be like, thank you. It's like, nigga, no. Like, it's weird,
you thanked me, but I didn't really feel like
yeah, could you imagine God doing that? It's just like, that doesn't seem like the kind of God that, if there is a God, I don't like that guy. Let's do the other guy, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. And it's about how we treat, heaven on earth. Let's create heaven on earth, That's what I believe.
No, that's good. And I know that this is a conversation that you really kind of wanted to hold off on a little bit, but I love it so much. I just want to bring it in here.
Okay.
And we don't have to go into it deep. When you said, I liked what you said about the perspective of if you were the earth or you were any of the animals on the earth that weren't human.
Yeah.
And you were pondering God, you would immediately think, oh, those humans are definitely God, because they're clearly in control here, and they're clearly manipulating my environment. I can see them, and they're feeding me. And
by every definition of God, we are gods. Like, and that's that's that whole, if we were made in His image and called by our name. I do think that if we were created, we were intended to be created as creators. You know what I'm saying? And if we were intended to create, I think we were intended to create either a better life or a worse life. It's way more, to me, there's the things that are way more possible about being God. Maybe, what if we could all possibly be God, experiencing existence within itself? Like, God is in all of us. Literally, we're all God. He's experiencing His creation, all the ups and downs, life, death, love, happiness, sadness. He wanted to experience all His creation through all of us. That makes way more sense than Christian God, right? You know what I'm saying? What also makes way more sense is, like I said, like, He, if we were created, He's like, all right, I want you all to create. I made you all to create. Now you create, the heaven or hell.
We almost create. You almost looking at it that way, thinking of humans almost become a fractal of God when you kind of look at it that way.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes way. But when you look at the universe, everything's a fractal anyway. Right?
Everything's a fractal anyway. So it makes more sense as a model to think about, to explain everything. It makes more sense to look at it that way than it does to open up the Bible and think that's the way that it explains things.
There's no problem with believing in God. It's the whole, worship part of it. Like, that's troublesome. I don't think He'd want that. It's just, and if He does, he's maybe not worshiping the right guy. I don't think the guy who wants to worship is the good guy in the story. Because like I said, like, with a significant other, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, God, I can't even imagine. Like, I was just, could you imagine, worship me, love me? You'd be like, bro, calm down, man. Like, shit, bro. You cool, man. We have a good thing going. Just keep it cool, right? So, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, listen, it's been, the podcast so far. We're in episode 7 right now, and we hope that we've brought everybody a little bit of a tapestry of topics. This is the episode we wanted to dive into religion, because it's a big topic for everybody at some point in their lives, even if not current day today. And we're going on the internet with our take today on it, and we're going to live there forever. So
canceled.
Canceled immediately,
right?
Probably.
Like the nigga talk is all good, you know what I'm saying? You start getting into people's Jesus. It's like Not today, Satan. Not today. You know? I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
You just barely got some of our followers to overcome your use of the N-word, and now you're talking,
about
making statements about religion. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
I'm telling you, I got y'all. Look, I got everybody. I got y'all. If God is real, man, don't worry. I'm catching the fade with them when the rapture happens. I got y'all. I got it. Yeah, for real. I got a problem. Me and God, I'm gonna like, come here, God. Come here. Come on, right here, over here in this area, right here. Lace up your shoes and whatever you need to do. Cause we got something to handle right now, man. You got problems, dude. Just gonna let the world be how it is. What the fuck wrong with you? You know what I'm saying?
All right, man. Well, hey, episode 7, Black Jesus. Thank you so much for checking out our show, and always MartyandtheBreaux.com is sort of a central hub. I know not everybody is going to go to our website and check it out. A lot of people catch our show on YouTube, of course. We're available on all the podcasting platforms. But to join the co-op that creates the content on Marty and the Breaux, that's the company that supports and creates the content. We would love to have people from our audience actually join and become part of that co-op. There's explanations on the join co-op page of our website. And we hope to hear from you and come be a part of Marty and the Breaux, because
shit lit over here, nigga. That's why.
Yeah. I think we're fresh. I think we're fresh. Some of these perspectives are not often heard in any context. Yeah. So I hope that people are going to find us and they find something valuable about what we're saying, and come be a part of it. Be part of our support system.
Hell yeah. Appreciate it, man. Yep.
All right, Marty, enjoyed it as always. So I'll pick it up with you next time.
Hell yeah, sir. You take it easy, big homie. All
right. Much love, man.
Go get something to drink. It's just so hot in here.
Burn it up in there again.
It's just not funny. All right. Take it easy, bro.
All right. Take care. Ciao.
Right. Yo, you like what you just saw? Make sure you like, share, subscribe so the algorithms can algorithm or whatever sorcery they do. Follow us on our socials. Links all down in the description. And let's keep rocking.